All right, bet. So, what's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name's Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. Today, we're going to be covering three stories that I thought were interesting, that were relevant to my channel, and I'm going to try to continue to do at least three stories a day. At least on live to come and chop it up with the people, talk to y'all, drop some knowledge, learn something myself, all of that. I'll only be on live maybe for an hour because I got to get back to work. As you know, I'm writing the list for E40 for culturalist theory. Go check out the new episode that dropped on Talib Kweli that I wrote for. I got more projects coming with culturalist theory too. More movie reviews coming soon. The Mia Culpa review will be done today as well. So go follow me on X, Laji Enrique. It's under the description of most of the movie reviews, so I'm not hard to find. Come and join the conversation for the movie reviews. Come and jump into the live stream chat, chop it up with me. Let me know what you want me to cover. Let me know what you find interesting. What's your opinion on these stories? Everything like that. So, I'm going to be covering this interesting article that I surprisingly found in my Twitter mentions from my guy, The Violator, aka Nelson Moreno, big supporter on this channel, big follower. And it's an interesting story and something that I probably wouldn't have seen if he did not send it my way. So I'm glad he did. So this relates to white supremacy across the world and how white supremacy ends up hurting even the people who perpetuate those ideas. Racism does not help anybody. Anti-Black discrimination does not help anybody. Discrimination against any sorts of people does not help anybody. It only hurts the people who are the victims of that sort of hatred and discrimination, and it hurts even more over the long run the people who perpetrate that sort of hate. So let's get into it. Racial tensions cost Germany Inc. skilled foreign labor. This was written by Christoph Steitz and Sarah Marsh, published on March 27th, 2024 for Reuters.com, published about 8 hours ago. In this picture, we see protesters carry national flags of Germany and the ultra-far-right party Freie Sachsen or Free Saxony during the demonstration in Chemnitz, Germany, March 18th, 2024. I went to Germany before, so go check out the video I released on my channel about what it's like to be Black in Germany or Blacks in Germany. I found it a relatively interesting country. It's very diverse. There are people from all over the world there, but still underlying those, what we see as diversity and this liberal, open society, there is a hint of, that Nazi ideology that still exists there. I met a guy who had, 88 Hail Hitler tattooed on his arm at a bar there, and he bought me a beer, ironically. But yeah, there are people there who still have those negative views, right? Some of it might be aimed towards Turks, some of it might be aimed towards gypsies, but all of it still roots itself in anti-Blackness. So we need to be aware of that. All right, I'm going to read this story here. Chemnitz, Germany, March 27th. Manager Joerg Engelmann says he has pulled out all the stops to attract skilled foreign workers to his chemical engineering company in Chemnitz, East Germany. But once they arrived, the racial slurs and exclusion they experienced in the town have driven some of them away. His firm is one of 5 German medium-sized companies that told Reuters that foreign staff recently moved on or switched locations due to xenophobia, even as Europe's biggest economy suffers a shortage of skilled labor. Now, I didn't pull up the map for Chemnitz, but it says here it's in East Germany, and East Germany was the part that was under, the Soviet Union's rule, domination, and that's the part of the country that tends to be less developed, less westernized, as some people like to say, though I don't like that term, and it tends to be a bit more backwards and a bit more poor. Now, poorer by German standards, not by, the rest of the world standards, because Germany is still the, first world. But where you have poor people, especially poor white people, unfortunately, you will find a lot of anti-Blackness, and you will find a lot of anti-immigrantness. You will find a lot of xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, sexist views, and that sort of stuff. Anywhere you have ignorance thrive, you will find hatred and discrimination, because people, when they see things that are different than them, because they are not used to dealing with those sorts of things, they have to lash out and they have to attack those things, right? I've experienced this myself, and I've spoken about this on my channel, so I'm not surprised to some degree, though I am disheartened to hear about these people who probably worked very hard to get their permits, their visas, their degrees to work in Germany and start making some good euros, and then you have to get met with racial slurs when you land. All right. So Here are the statistics right here. Job vacancies in Germany. Vacancies have more than doubled over the past 10 years, underscoring the tightness of the labor market, with company and political leaders bemoaning a lack of skilled labor. So, this is the thing about modern capitalism, right? Everything is about growth every year. We can never have stability or degrowth, God forbid. Everything is about growth, 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 growth. And the number one way these countries, these modern, developed Western countries, the only way that they can continue to grow is by importing people from the third world, from the developing world, who have the degrees, who have the experience to work in these countries, because there's only so many naturalized or regular German citizens who have the ability or the skills to do the more advanced technical jobs that are coming out every single year, right? Only so many positions can be filled by oh so many people, right? This is one fact that the right wing loves to bring out. The foreigners are coming and taking our jobs. Well, how about this? If the citizens of a country got educated enough, worked hard enough to earn the degrees to be able to become the programmers, the engineers, the doctors, lawyers, and all of that stuff, then maybe your country wouldn't have to continue to import people and rob the third world of their talented people that can develop their nations as well. Going to continue here. Many large companies in Germany and the Netherlands have expressed concern about the difficulty of hiring due to anti immigrant sentiment. Some employers go a step further, saying they are actually losing staff because of it. CAC Engineering, GmbH. That's so funny. CAC Engineering, like crack ass, cracker engineering. That's funny as hell. That's funny. I never understood what GmbH stands for. I know I see it all the time, and I think it stands for German company or something like that. I never bothered to look it up, but I need to look it up one day. Forgive me for my ignorance. Somebody's going to say, oh, I can't listen to this video now because he doesn't know what GmbH means, as if that discounts everything else that I'm going to say about racism here, or as if you can't learn something else within this. Going to continue here. So, CAC Engineering, GmbH, the family owned company Engelman runs, has lost around 5 of its 40 foreign employees over the past 12 months because of discrimination, he told Reuters. The company declined to make its former staff available to Reuters. So some people might say in the comments, and I'm sorry I keep on interrupting, they only lost 5 out of 40 people. Well, the racism can't be that bad. The racism can't be that bad. Of course, people will tolerate a lot of BS if it means a good salary. Like I said, the rest of the world survives on $300 or $400 a month. Meanwhile, the salaries in Germany can be exponentially larger, especially working as an engineer or something like that. So yeah, a lot of people, unfortunately, will tolerate being called racial slurs or being abused in the streets or having their children discriminated against in school because it's better than the places they come from. For example, if you're a Namibian who happened to move to Germany because the economic opportunities in your country are bad, you are not going to possibly look back on Namibia and say, that's the place I want to go, unless you are extremely dissatisfied with the racism. But first, as a Namibian, you have to think back and realize that Namibia is a war-torn, semi-war-torn new country on the face of the earth, that was ravaged by many years of German colonialism. The Germans went to Namibia and exterminated people, literally created the very first concentration camps, created the very first ethnic genocide. Yeah, these sorts of things are the reasons why people are leaving the third world and having to come to these European nations, countries in the Americas like Canada or the US, and then we have to tolerate. Then we have to tolerate the anti-black discrimination, anti-Asian discrimination, anti-Indian, et cetera, et cetera. So uh, we do what we can, but we can't become bodyguards, said Engelman 57. There are parts of the population who don't realize that there are foreign skilled workers who want to make a real contribution to Germany. CAC did not give details, but xenophobic hate crime cases recorded across Germany by the Interior Ministry more than tripled between 2013 and 2022 to more than 10,000. Overall, Engelman said high energy costs pose a bigger challenge. Very interesting. A lot of people attacked me in the comment section and they got their asses blocked when I did my video, I believe, a few months ago about is anti-black racism increasing in Germany or across Europe in general. And the answer is yes, absolutely yes, by far yes. And these numbers they do not hide it. Hate crimes on the rise. Cases of hate crimes in Germany have more than doubled since 2001, while xenophobia motivated hate crimes has more than tripled. So here are the hate crimes here, right? And instances of xenophobia here. Here's 2001. 2002, the trend seems to be steady, though declining in some points. Okay, staying steady right here. The AfD is founded. That's the far right National Party of Germany. And here they have exploded. The migrant crisis, it reached very high. Influx of Ukrainian refugees, though I don't think the Ukrainian refugees contributed to the hate crimes. I don't think the Germans saw these blonde haired, blue eyed people and said, we got to kick them out of our country, right? But yeah. Going to continue here. Official German estimates suggest the country as a whole will be short of 7 million skilled workers by 2035, compared with a labor force of around 46 million. The climate is more hostile in eastern Germany, where after the fall of communism, plant closures and layoffs saw an exodus of young people and a lower birth rate. Chemnitz, in the state of Saxony near the Czech border, is trying to attract skilled workers. Engelman's firm says it helps arrange temporary housing, language, and even driving lessons to encourage foreign employees to settle. And this is a good thing because when people come to a new country, their intention is not to rob, steal, rape, murder. Their intention is to do good, positive things. I'm here in Hungary right now, as I said, and I've been followed around in the stores as if I'm some criminal who is coming to Hungary to do evil things. The people coming to Germany to work as the engineers, the doctors, the people in these plants and factories and stuff like that, they are coming to make a better life for themselves. So let's try to make that transition for them as easy as possible, right? In the same respect goes in reverse. If somebody were to come to my country, to the US, 9 times out of 10, they are coming with the best intentions to make a better life for themselves and their families, right? Going to continue here. But Chemnitz has become a focus of anti-immigrant feelings since 2018, when anti-migrant protests in the city turned to riots. Largely destroyed during World War II and rebuilt under communism, as Karl Marx thought, it was one of Germany's richest cities at the turn of the 20th century. Since reunification in 1990, its population has shrunk by around 20% to just over 250,000. Foreigners have jumped to nearly 14% of inhabitants from just over 2% in 2000, according to data from Chemnitz-based Fogg Institute for Market and Social Research. Yeah, my impression of going to Germany, I was just surprised to see, even because I didn't go to like Munich or Berlin or something like that. I was in a small, resort town near a lake, near a reservoir called Waldeck. And while I was there, I was just surprised to see how many, Turkish people, how many mixed race couples, and how many people of mixed race heritage just running around all over Germany, even in the small pockets. I thought I was going to go to Germany and be in Whitelandia, but I went there and saw, a rainbow of people, which was very interesting because even in this place like Chemnitz, which is a semi-small city in Germany, right? 14% of the population is immigrant. I'm pretty sure a lot of that percentage is Turkish, but it could also be Ukrainians and other Europeans, and maybe also, North Africans, sub-Saharan Africans, that sort of stuff. Though I hate the term sub-Saharan African. Continuing here. On Monday evenings at around 6 p.m., around 250 people marched through the town in a regular Monday demonstration, prompted by one of the far-right parties that make up a quarter of the city council's members. Marchers at a recent event sang nationalist songs, beat drums, and waved the flags of Saxony, Germany, and Russia. Resident Farid Makbil, 31, an Egyptian who came to Germany to teach German to foreigners, said he is happy in the town overall. He experiences racism often, but doesn't take it personally. And that's how a lot of people, who come from the poorer parts of the earth, who are darker skinned. He's an Egyptian, so possibly he could have a darker skin tone, though there are white passing Egyptians and that sort of stuff. He said he experiences racism quite often, but he tolerates it because he loves his new home. He loves the money it gives him, and that sort of stuff. I know some stupid people in the comments might say later, if I was a white man and I went to work in Africa, I'd experience racism too. Shut the front door. No, that would not happen to you. We've covered this explicitly on this channel multiple times. My wife has spoken about it, but let's get this absolutely clear. The discrimination and racism that darker skinned people face, or people who come from poorer nations face when they go to these mostly homogenous white, richer European nations, is two different worlds. Sure, you could be a white man working and living in Tanzania and you can get called Mzungu, but Mzungu doesn't sting the same. especially when everybody comes up to you thinking you're rich, powerful, that you're some sort of god who came down from the clouds and landed on African soil. Meanwhile, a black African who goes and lives in Poland, some rural area of Poland, doing the same job that you have, making the same money you make as a white man in Tanzania, or maybe even more, will get called the N word in the street, possibly even attacked or killed, made fun of just for going to the store, followed around the store, and that sort of stuff. It's not the same thing. Let's get this absolutely clear. No, there is no anti-white racism in the world that's violent, explicit, and ran by the state anywhere. Meanwhile, anti-black discrimination and discrimination against other marginalized people who come from poorer places of the earth is very rampant and is somewhat culturalized. It's a part of some cultures endemically. All right, continuing here. Um, in the first week here, I went shopping at the supermarket and an elderly woman just looked at me. I'm not sure if it was my appearance, but she just started shouting. He said, "Such weird situations happen. A few days ago in the tram, a boy said loudly, 'Here there are only Afghans who want to steal.'" Christine Waller, 84, a lifelong Chemnitz resident, says she felt asylum seekers in Germany got financial benefits that the elderly did not. "When I am in the city, some days I feel there are not many people speaking my mother tongue anymore," she said. "I also miss the old manners." City spokesman Matthias Nowak said the majority of people in Chemnitz are against extremism, adding that Chemnitz would fall apart without immigrants. For instance, 40% of staff at the hospital are foreigners. Remigration, pardon. Channeling the anti-immigrant mood are political parties, including Alternative für Deutschland (AfD), which is on track to win 3 regional state elections in September this year, including in Saxony. The AfD has said it wants to reverse mass migration that occurred in 2015, create asylum centers outside the European Union, introduce strict controls on German borders, sanction migrants who do not want to integrate fully, and create incentives for economic migrants to return home. Germany's domestic intelligence agency, which has said it is monitoring the AfD on suspicion of terrorism, said AfD party officials propagate racist theories such as the Great Replacement, which holds that political elites are deliberately engineering the replacement of Europe's white population with non-white immigrants. I wish, the mainstream media, explicitly Reuters, put the full context of the Great Replacement theory, because the Great Replacement theory, the white supremacists who support it, I don't support this idea at all. And it's absolutely not true. There is no great replacement. There is no mass migration of particularly a certain segment of people to change the demographics. The reason why these major corporations are seeking people from abroad to work there is just because of capitalist demands. They need workers to continue to fuel the ever burning engine of GDP growth. The almighty dollar, the almighty euro that the world worships, requires that we have a large amount of people continuing to flow into these nations to continue to boost their economies. Like they said in this article before, 40% of the people that work in these companies are foreigners, are immigrants, and that sort of stuff. Going back to this part up here, they talked about how the great replacement theory is that the elites, they just need to say the Jews. I wish the mainstream media put the white supremacist talking points out there so we can laugh them out of existence and really show that they can't hide in the corners of 4chan or in the comment sections in X posts and that sort of stuff. We need to put their stupid ideas out there so we can actually battle with them. Going to continue here. The party's Chemnitz chapter this month shared an article on its Facebook page about an alleged rape by migrants entitled "Population Replacement Makes Girls and Women Fair Game." In one post, Ulrich Ohm, deputy leader of AfD Chemnitz, comments that life for our women and girls has become much harder in public spaces and worries about group rape and knife attacks that are on the rise. Absolutely not true. The number one people who rape and murder German women are other German men. The number one people who rape and murder other Americans, specifically American women, American white women, are other white men. There is no attack or assault or desire to conquer or hurt white civilization or white countries. This is the paranoia that exists in the minds of the white supremacists. They always have to have an enemy. They always have to be in fear of their existence, even though their existence right now is the best it's ever been. If we look all through European history, this is the number one time to be white. There is no better time in history to be white than it is right now. Yet and still they are insistent on thinking that this constant threats of the poor and wretched and the dark of the earth are coming to take over their lands and everything like that. You If you are a German citizen right now, a white German citizen right now, you basically have people willing to fight and die and claw to be your literal wage slaves. And I'm staying away from calling them blatant slaves, but you have people that are willing to work menial jobs coming from countries far and wide to be on your land because of the rampant colonialism and extortion and exploitation that the developed countries of the world exhibit over the poorer nations, right? But even still, even with all of those benefits, you have to say, we're under attack. Our lives are being threatened. The way of our culture is going extinct. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Ohim told Reuters his post was not xenophobic, but was addressing issues felt massively by the local population. The AFD said it agreed with his observations, adding, immigration related crime is very difficult to combat because it is often embedded in family or clan structures and because of cultural and language barriers. Facebook owner Meta did not respond to a request for comment. The AFD says its policies would not damage the economy. Here, the government and state owned companies are clearly and obviously distracting from the homemade problems and using the AFD as a scapegoat. It said in a statement to Reuters, citing the high energy prices worsened by Germany's nuclear exit and renewables drive. I also thought that, the war in Ukraine was fueling that, but I guess that's what they're associating the renewables drive for. Like Germany is now turning to renewables because of the war in Ukraine. They can't get cheap gas from Russia anymore. Anyway, but Germany's corporate executives took to the media to warn about the risks of anti immigrant sentiment, following a January report by investigative portal Corrective of a fundraising meeting in Potsdam where a master plan for deportations of people of foreign origin, dubbed remigration, was discussed. Attended by 4 senior AFD officials, the meeting was organized by a group called the Dusseldorfer Forum, which said on the invitation, it is an exclusive network of personalities who are ready to make significant contributions to or stop the destruction of our country. On a microsite created after the event, organizer Gernot Morig said remigration was only one topic discussed. He could not be reached for comment. I wouldn't be surprised that if in the future there is some sort of like Reconquista event. If you don't know history, basically in Spain, when the African Moors controlled Spain, the Christian countries sort of all collaborated together to push them out after the Moors ruled Spain for centuries, and that sort of stuff. And that sort of thing still exists, I believe, in the minds of some of these people. Like history is a powerful motivating force to make people try to recreate it, even though they say the common saying is that if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. I would argue if you know history, you're even more likely to try to repeat it, because this is why people say the past was so glorious. Our people used to be great. Our nation used to be great. Let's make it great again, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, some far off, distant future, but hell, maybe in my lifetime, there is some sort of Reconquista event, or at least in the minds of some people, where they say we're going to try to kick out as many Turkish people or Muslim people from Germany as possible. The same could go in Italy with the black sub-Saharan migrants who have come there. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. It would be very disheartening, and it would be a step back for humanity, and it would be one of the most blatant examples of white supremacy I could imagine, but it wouldn't. We can't rule out anything on the table. The fight against white supremacy and these ideas must continue until that possibility is killed in and of itself. So, continuing here. On a microsite created after the event, organizer Gernot Morig said remigration was only one topic discussed. He could not be reached for comment. Martin Sellner, an Austrian leader of the identitarian movement, which says it wants to preserve European identity and opposes immigration from outside the continent, told Reuters he had spoken at the meeting. Unassimilated citizens like Islamists, gangsters, and welfare cheats should be punished to adapt through a policy of standards and assimilation, he said, saying that could include incentives for voluntary return. In the long term, a German remigration policy sets the course for Germany to become more German every day and not the opposite. I want to understand what he views as, assimilation or non assimilation, because when I was in Germany, I met black people who didn't speak any English at all, right? Or any African language. They only spoke German. Their mind was German, right? Where are you going to send these people to? Where are you going to send the people to who have two Turkish parents but don't speak any Turkish in Germany? Where are you going to send all those people? Oh, they cannot fully assimilate because they don't have the right phenotype. That's what you're really trying to say. None of this was happening when, none of this talk was happening during other conflicts in European history when the Slavs were, mass emigrating from their countries, right? During the Yugoslav war, when Bosnia and Serbia and all of these places were falling apart, there was never this talk about, we need to make Italy great again because there's too many goddamn Albanians in the country. There was none of that. None of that. I wonder why. I wonder why. But now there are all of these far right movements because they have black sub-Saharan Africans washing up on shore in southern Italy. So I think, we're seeing exactly what I'm talking about here happening right before our eyes. And this sort of sentiment needs to be challenged, always challenged. All right. The capital of culture. The hardening climate extends beyond Chemnitz and does not only target people from outside Europe. Two of our foreign employees have left Germany because they said they no longer feel comfortable and safe here, said Detlef Nehas, CEO of solar firm SolarWatt, based in the East German city of Dresden. He said one had moved back to England. These are direct consequences of the changing mood in the country. The company declined to make its former staff available to Reuters. Chemnitz-based Community4U, which supplies fleet and leasing software to corporate heavyweights such as Lufthansa, BMW, and Commerzbank, said it has had employees move away because they no longer feel welcome. Its chief operating officer, Lavinio Corchetti, an Italian, moved northwest to Leipzig in 2021, saying the atmosphere was more cosmopolitan there. In Chemnitz, I sometimes had the feeling that the fact that I had to be careful was also related to the fact that I was a foreigner, he said. Autonomous driving software maker FD Tech, also based in Chemnitz, has also lost workers over xenophobia. Its managing director, Karsten Schultz, said, "Yes, we do have a problem with xenophobia here, but it's not limited to Saxony, to Chemnitz. We have it all across Germany, and by the way, all across Europe too," he said. All right, Germany's economy shrank by 0.3% in 2023, the weakest performance globally among large countries. I knew the GDP talk was going to come up. I knew the economy talk was going to come up. A survey carried out over 2022 and 2023 by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, has highlighted that while Germany remains very attractive to foreign workers, discrimination is a problem. Tracking the careers of 30,000 highly qualified people who wanted to come to Germany as migrant workers since August 2022, the survey found that people who had already moved to Germany experienced more discrimination compared to the expectations of those still abroad. Essen-based Denise Ates, 30, who runs a recruitment agency Who Moves that focuses on foreign IT workers, said he first noticed at an event in India late last year that people were worried about the political mood in Germany, with some saying the country was no longer an option for them. The most important factor in deciding where to apply for a job is, do I feel safe? Do I feel welcome? Ates said. New Delhi-based lawyer Rami Kumar said he has put on hold efforts to relocate to Europe, where he spends several months a year, citing a rise in xenophobia. Now, this is a person who has options because he said he spends several months in Europe. So, a lot of the times, unfortunately, people with economic means or transient jobs or online workers, remote workers like myself, have the ability to say, you know what, I don't have to deal with this racism. It doesn't matter. I can pick up and move and find somewhere else, right? But a lot of other people, unfortunately, like if I were a black person here stuck in Hungary, right, and I had to stay here, I might deal with more and more racism, and then it might become very depressing because I would continue to face those things, right? But if I have the options to move, or if I have the finances to decide where I want to live, where I want to work, it's different. It's different. So yeah, this is a person who has options when he's saying that, I'm going to hold off because of the AFD's win of 3 local elections. Like, chill, buddy, chill. All right. This limits your risk taking abilities to jump on the next plane and go there and set up something, he said. So that is why I'm taking it slow and trying to assess where it is going. Chemnitz city spokesman Nowak said it had increased funds for anti racism and pro democracy projects since 2018 and wants to use plans for its coming role as a European capital of culture in 2025 to activate the silent middle, addressing the issue of racism head on. Far right parties have said they will protest this. One, pro Chemnitz, has suggested the city should instead be the capital of remigration. We have had enough of the kind of culture that has flooded Germany since 2015. All you need to do is check the city center, the party said in a post on Telegram. The party did not respond to a request for comment from Reuters. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, when I went to Germany, and I think I said this in another video, it was a culture shock for me because I was living in Belgrade at the time, which is pretty lily white, very quiet, and people expect Serbia to be this war-torn place that has a lot of drugs, crime, and Slavs and tracksuits shooting out the windows. But I landed in Frankfurt, Germany, to go work at that camp, and I was surprised to see white people and black people holding hands, smoking crack together on the streets. A lot of homeless people, a lot of people asking me, "Hey, man, you got drugs? You got weed?" I was, going to get some Burger King late night. And like I said, the Germany is very multicultural. I saw a lot of like Turkish people, kebab everywhere. People hanging out the top of like their convertible cars, like blasting loud music, having fun. Now let's listen. If you're a incel, if you're a little dick loser who sees this sort of activity and says, "Oh, Germany has gone to hell." Listen, man, listen. What you're seeing is what happens in almost every other major city across the world. Like there are grimy parts, and I just happen to be staying in a grimy part. But if I were a white nationalist or a white supremacist or even just a closed-minded person, and I landed in the middle of Frankfurt expecting to see flowing fountains and artistic architectural balconies and stuff like that, and then I'm meted with the reality that many of our major capitals and major cities across the world are dilapidated and run down because there isn't new development, new housing being built, I might be able to say, oh, this is what Germany is like. They really should kick out the immigrants. Maybe the immigrants are the problem, instead of looking at the real forces, which are the landowners, the land developers who buy up all these properties, make rent super expensive, make it so it's impossible for people to get fair, adequate housing at a fair market price, that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're going to continue to see things like this. It is not the immigrants' fault. Let's not look downwards. Let's look upwards on who's keeping us suppressed and dispossessed. Continuing here. So yeah, that's the end of the article. This was written by Sarah Marsh. Shout out to Sarah. She's the chief correspondent covering political and general news in Germany, with experience in Argentina and in Cuba, leading Reuters' broader Caribbean coverage. So, yeah, very interesting article. Shout out to Nelson Moreno for sending this to me. I'm going to be jumping to this next article now. Utah women's basketball team troubled and shaken as disturbing details of alleged racist abuse directed at players emerge. This was published on March 27th, 2024, written by George Ramsey and Jill Martin for CNN.com. This is a breaking news story. I just watched the video beforehand of this event that happened in Utah. Now, I know, unfortunately, a lot of people are very stupid and they don't know basic geography. So I'm going to show you where Idaho is. Pardon. This event happened in Idaho, not in Utah. Idaho is this large state in the western part of the U.S., centered in the Rocky Mountains. Particularly, this story happened in a city called Coeur d'Alene. Now, this is so ironic. Literally, it's so ironic. About 2 days ago, I was up late night. And once again, I was going through one of my phases in my mind where I'm thinking about, should I move back to America? What type of place do I want to live in America? And then I was thinking about, what I like? I like mountains. I like the sea. I like, having access to like cool, interesting places not that far away. Maybe I don't want a big city, that sort of stuff. So I started looking at, yes, I know, Idaho. I was looking at Idaho and I came across Coeur d'Alene and I believe another place called Sandy Point. And I watched a few videos about lifestyle there. I did get the impression that it is very small town, like where I came from. So I sort of started walking myself out of my fantasy again. And then on top of that, it's very, very, very white. Like every video about Coeur d'Alene is like some YouTuber trucker with like the sleeve tattoo, uh and the stereotypical like white guy bent brim hat like this, talking about Coeur d'Alene. You got skiing, you got snowing, you got mudding, you got trekking, all that sort of stuff. So I was like, okay, let me walk myself out of it. But I'm gonna show you the pictures. Coeur d'Alene is a very, very, very beautiful place. I mean, come on, this looks like paradise, right? But the crazy thing, once again, about America, we have all of these beautiful places, natural wonders, places where you could raise a family, places where you could literally die happy thinking that this is heaven on earth. We don't need Switzerland. We don't need Austria. We don't need Norway. We don't need the farthest reaches of Siberia with pristine nature. We have all of that in America. But the number one toxic pollutant of the atmosphere of America's environment is white supremacist violence. Is white supremacist violence. Going back to this story right here, where this women's basketball team, these young girls who are in college, playing a game that they love, making money for their school, because female athletes and also male athletes who play in college are not paid a dime, even though they're putting their goddamn bodies on the line. What is happening? They're trying to get their education, be great, all the things the white supremacists say black people aren't supposed to do. And while they are visiting this small town, Coeur d'Alene, that looks something like Geneva, before Geneva was Geneva, they get called racial slurs, insulted, just for being black in this very homogenous space. Absolutely a travesty that this happened to these young girls. I feel for them. I feel for them. I'm glad that the city, in the video that I watched, and you can find the description in my live stream, you can the city apologized to them, the mayor apologized to them, the coach is out here standing up for them. This white woman here said racism is real. It always makes me very happy when white people say racism is real, but then at the same time they're saying like they're saying in their mind, yeah, it's bad to be racist against Italians. It's bad to be racist against Irish. I know that's what they're thinking in their mind. They're not actually thinking about what is racism. And the only reason that this story I truly believe is getting coverage is because it wasn't just the black girls who saw and heard what happened. These dumbasses who decided to insult this team of black women, no, this basketball team, they insulted the entire team, showing how dumb you are, how stupid. And that's the only reason why. Because if this was just two black girls who said we were walking the streets of Coeur d'Alene and we were called racial slurs, they'd be doing all this denial. I don't even think the coach here would be saying racism is real. Everyone would be saying, well, I don't know if that actually happened. Well, I don't know. I mean, how do you know that's exactly what they heard? Or maybe they heard something else, or even worse, maybe it was a rap song. Maybe they were just repeating hip hop. Maybe when they were saying F you, N word, get out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, they were just repeating a Kanye West lyric. Maybe that's what they were doing. So that's what's frustrating about this story. I'm glad it's getting press. I'm glad it's going to put shame on the people that insulted these women. And I hope that the perpetrators get arrested and charged with hate crimes. Idaho does not have a hate crime. Well, to call somebody a racial slur in America in general is protected by the First Amendment, right? So somebody can literally come up to me in the streets of America and say N word this, N word that to me, and that is their right, freedom of expression. But if they say that to me in a way that is meant to be threatening, in a way that assumes that I could imply reasonably that I should be in fear of my life or in fear of my safety right now, then that can be charged as assault or something else. And from watching the video, that's what I saw here. They explained Idaho's hate crime laws, or how they would charge somebody for a racist insult. Second thing I want to add is that in Idaho, the number of their race crimes, hate crimes, racial hate crimes is really growing. I believe they said in the video about 48 hate crimes were committed last year in Idaho, and about 25 of those 48 hate crimes were racially motivated, right? So all right, there's a lot to break down here with this story. I'm going to jump into the comments. My beautiful wife, Act Dennis, said, "Yeah, I'm not going there." Okay, I don't know why I can't read right now. Maybe I'm slowly becoming dyslexic, but I have not been drinking, so my brain should be working at maximum capacity. But maybe I should bring back the vino. But either way, I would like to know, Acty, why you would not like to live in beautiful Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. You can find the description, or you could just look it up on in Bing or Google. It's a beautiful place, but let us know why Idaho would be not for you. Because if you're going to say it's too small, that's one thing. But If the answer is not that it's a racist ass place, then there's no other good answer. Because this is a beautiful place. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in America, hands down. Going to continue here. So, Utah women's basketball team troubled and shaken as disturbing details of alleged racist abuse directed at players emerge. All right. I already read who wrote this. Going to jump back into the comments real quick. It's beautiful, but I have to drive everywhere. And yes, it's racist. See, you added the and yes, it's racist at the end because you already had your answer. You just had to type that in. Gonna jump to the story. So, members of the Utah women's basketball team have been left deeply troubled and shaken by what team officials called hateful and disturbing racial abuse ahead of their NCAA tournament opening game. The team has filed a police report and is now releasing more details of what it says occurred in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho on Thursday, ahead of a game against South Dakota State in Spokane, Washington, which is about 30 miles away. According to a statement from Utah Athletics Director Mark Harlan, Deputy AD Charmel Green and women's basketball coach Lynn Roberts. The team was on its way to dinner when a vehicle drove past and shouted racial epithets at the group. Later, when the team was on its way back from dinner, a vehicle drove slowly past the group, revving its engine, while the occupants again shouted racially disparaging words and threats, the statement said. It added, as can be imagined, many students, staff, and other members of the traveling party were deeply disturbed and fearful after the incidents and what should be a safe and enjoyable experience. Now, I know if this was a table full of teenage girls or girls in their 20s, somebody got footage. Somebody's always on their phone at one of these things, especially a girl dinner. You will never see more cell phones come out and faces in the screen than you will on girl dinner. Somebody was getting their scroll on and their roll on. So I know it's in somebody's camera roll. Drop the footage. Drop the footage. Let's see the faces or let's hear the voices so we can better detect who the people are. I'm serious. Somebody dropped the footage, but it's a shame that the footage ain't dropped. She got it in the camera roll. She got it in the camera roll. I know she does. I'm going to continue here. So, in an interview with CNN affiliate KSL, Green said the N word had been shouted at the team on each of the two occasions. Police have opened an investigation. At the time of the report, we were unable to speak to any of the potential victims of the incident, nor were we able to locate individuals who yelled the racial slurs. Coeur d'Alene Police Chief Lee White said at a news conference on Tuesday. Somebody needs to look at his license plate and compare it to the video camera footage. What if the police chief is like, I don't know who did it. And meanwhile, behind his back, he's got like the Klan hood in his clutches. You get what I'm saying? Like, you never know who to trust in these small towns. Trust me, when I look at my comment section, I am very surprised who is popping up, leaving racist ass comments. I look up these people, look at their pictures, do a background search and everything. A few days ago, a white woman in Tampa, Florida, left a racist ass comment under one of my Albania videos. And guess what this woman does? She works at a hospital. She is a nurse. Black people are literally laying down in bed with, laying down in their hospital beds. They could be on their last leg. And this woman could be the person that could send these people to the afterlife, right? And this person is leaving racist comments under my comment section. I'm telling y'all, the white supremacists are everywhere. They're the police, they're the doctors, they're the nurses, there are teachers, they're everybody. They're everywhere and they are everybody. You never know. You never know. So, hell, it could be the chief himself who was hurling these racial slurs at these people, especially in this small town in Idaho. All right. The Coeur d'Alene Police Department has an open case in this matter, and detectives are attempting to speak with any victims of this incident. But so far, we don't know exactly who that may be. It was initially reported that there was approximately 100 people who were in the vicinity of the incident when it occurred. We are working cooperatively with our partners at the FBI because there are federal statutes that may be appropriately charged based on what actually occurred. So here's Lynn Roberts watching the first half. I believe Lynn for her teammates, but yeah, more needs to be done to stamp out this sort of hatred that exists in the minds of these people. Like, how do you see a group of women? And typically, you know, college basketball players, they look pretty good. How do you see a group of girls and you're a bunch of guys in your car, and instead of spitting game at them, you decide to hurl racial slurs at them? Like, you gotta have no people skills. You gotta have the smallest penis in the world. You gotta stink really bad. You gotta have horrible teeth to, instead of trying to holler at something and to pick up something, you decide to be a dumbass and just be so crude and nasty. Nobody likes that. Nobody's pussy gets wet from a racist. Nobody's pussy gets wet from a racist. This is what white men have to learn. This is what white men have to learn, unfortunately. Going to continue here. Deputy AD, Deputy Attorney Defendant, no, Deputy AD Green said that she was struggling to comprehend the abuse to which the team had been subjected. I will never forget the sound that I heard, the intimidation of the noise that came from that engine, and the N word, Green told KSL. I go to bed and I hear it every night since I've been here. I couldn't imagine us having to stay there and relive those moments. I can relate to that so well, so well. Like all the times that I was called the N word in Albania or in America or in Turkey or in other places, right? Anytime I've gotten racial abuse online, anytime I've had death threats thrown at me, every time I've been followed around the store and I confront those people, I literally go through different stages of grief. And like, I feel like I have PTSD to some degree after all the experiences I've had dealing with racism. And so, yeah, people have to realize like just saying these racial slurs and telling people to brush it off your shoulder or act like it didn't happen, these are deep seated things that hurt. These are deep seated things that are real with you. Like you don't know what that feels like to have somebody demean you so thoroughly. And that word is so powerful. So powerful. We might not cry whenever you call us that. You might get packed out after you call us that, but definitely you left the scar. You left the scar when you say those things. All right. Continuing here, the team was eventually moved to a hotel in Spokane, which hosted first and second round games in the NCAA men's and women's tournaments. Utah was staying in Coeur d'Alene because of limited hotel space in Spokane. The team was offered a police escort to ensure that the journey to the McCarthy Athletic Center did not exceed 30 minutes. The Utes defeated South Dakota State on Saturday before losing 77-66 against host Gonzaga in the tournament's second round on Monday. On Tuesday, the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations said that a Confederate flag was displayed in the vehicle that had initially passed the team. I want to make it very clear and very loud that we condemn in the strongest terms those horrendous acts of hatred, and if the perpetrators can be found, we call upon them to be prosecuted. Tony Stewart, the director of the task force, said at a Tuesday press conference. There is no place in our communities or in the United States of America for such horrific acts. Stewart also said that one perpetrator had been involved in both instances of alleged abuse, though was reinforced by others on the second occasion. In a statement on Tuesday, the NCAA said that it was aware of the instances of racial abuse and immediately worked with Gonzaga and Utah to provide increased security for the team before the new accommodation was arranged. The NCAA condemns racism and hatred in any form and is committed to providing a world-class athletics and academic experience for student athletes that fosters lifelong well-being, the statement said. However, Harlan, Green, and Roberts said in their statement that they were very disappointed to have been accommodated so far from the venue. Gonzaga said that it was aware of racially disparaging comments to visiting players, adding, "Hate speech in any form is repugnant, shameful, and must never be tolerated. We worked hard to secure the opportunity to serve as the host institution, and our first priority is and must be the safety and welfare of all student athletes, coaches, families, and supporting staff." The UC Irvine women's basketball team was also staying in Coeur d'Alene before moving to a hotel in Spokane. CNN has contacted UCI for comment. So I hope the people that did this horrendous thing to these young girls are caught. I hope that they are sent to jail for an indefinite amount of time. They will definitely be released after they read the complete writings of James Baldwin, after they listen to and recite every single Dr. Umar interview verbatim, and also after they are chemically castrated. Those are the conditions that the Black community has set, as said by your president, Simon Hill, on the proper way to deal with these anti-Black racists who continue to show how feckless they are, how limp dick they are, by seeing a group of beautiful women sitting at the table. And instead of saying, "Hello, ladies, can we buy you a drink? Can we holler at y'all? Where y'all heading after? What party y'all going to? Do y'all want to come chill with us?" Something like that. Instead of spitting some game, you decide to yell the N-word at them, as if you think that's some great thing to do. Some great thinking you got there, buddy. Anyway, I'm almost finished with this live stream. I'm going to wrap this up short, but I just wanted to talk about something very quickly. Y'all remember a few weeks ago, this dummy, Charlie Kirk, said Black pilots, basically scare him. Not because Black people are scary, but because he thinks Black pilots aren't qualified. So if you remember, I'm just going to jog your memory to about 3 news cycles ago. Charlie Kirk, founder and president of the conservative Turning Point USA, faced online backlash after he admitted he would question the qualifications of black pilots. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he is qualified, the activist and host of the Charlie Kirk show said. Now, Charlie Kirk caused a lot of uproar with this dumbass comment, blatantly racist comment. People like Candace Owens defended him. And by the way, the Breakfast Club did a horrendous job on trying to interview Candace Owens. They didn't ask her about George Floyd. They didn't ask her about what she said about Ahmaud Arbery. They didn't ask her about her, trying to push people, specifically black people, to support the Republican Party or to abandon the reparations movement and that sort of stuff. They never held her up to task for any of her sexist or racist comments. So what the Breakfast Club did was embarrassing. And Candace Owens defending Charlie Kirk shows that she is an anti-black racist herself. And because Charlie Kirk's comments don't deserve merit, because we could easily debunk the idea that black people are not qualified to fly planes when we think about generally how fly we are. No, when we think about the Tuskegee Airmen and also this gentleman right here, David E. Harris. I wanted to end this video with a memorial for this black man who was a trailblazer because he was the first black pilot for a commercial airline back in 1964. He was more than qualified. Charlie Kirk, there was no DEI back then for him. Back then, Charlie Kirk, he was more twice as qualified as the white pilot. They did not give David Harris the job until this nigga literally could fly. They would not let him fly the plane until he became the first black man to actually flap his wings and at least levitate above the ground for a good 5 minutes, right? That's how racist it was back then. So let's kill all this notion of, even trying to entertain stupid people like Charlie Kirk and their racist ideas. Let's actually elevate black people who have done tremendous things in the areas where the white supremacists think that we do not exist or we've never made contributions. So let's read this memorial for David E. Harris, trailblazing airline pilot. He is dead at 89 years old. In 1964, at the height of the civil rights movement, he became the first black pilot for a major commercial airline in the United States. This is this man right here, David E. Harris, in about 1967, a few years after he was hired by American Airlines and became the first black pilot for a major commercial airline. Now, I did not look into David E. Harris's background. I didn't know if he was pull yourself by the bootstraps, if he was very, how can I say this, Clarence Thomas-ish in his demeanor or thinking. I didn't look into that. We have to forgive some of our ancestors, even if they have bad political takes or bad social commentary takes, right? Like, we can't take away Ben Carson being the first doctor to successfully separate Siamese twins at the head, right? We can't take away that achievement from that black man. Right? The same way we can't take it away from David E. Harris, who we don't know his political beliefs. We don't know what his wife looked like, for anybody who cares. We don't know if he voted Republican or Democrat. Nobody cares. We just have to applaud. I think we have to applaud black people that succeed in so many ways in a world that is hostile to our life and our expression, right? We can disagree with them. We can have a fight in the family, but we should still say what you did, brother, is amazing. We have to love black people. We have to celebrate our heroes and our icons, and we have to use what they did in the past to learn from and also gain inspiration from. Going to continue here. So, by Michael S. Rosenwald, published on March 23rd, 2024. David E. Harris, a former Air Force bomber pilot who, at the height of the civil rights movement in the 1960s, became the first black pilot hired by a major commercial airline in the United States, died on March 8th in Marietta, Georgia, about 20 miles northwest of Atlanta. He was 89. His death at a hospice center was confirmed by his daughter, Leslie Germain. American Airlines hired Mr. Harris in 1964, and he flew for the carrier for 30 years, rising to captain in 1967. In 1984, he made history for the second time with American when he flew with the first all-black cockpit crew on a commercial airliner. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Why can't we have that all the time? I want to see that. I want to see an all black crew for a plane. Black pilot, black stewardess, everything. That would be sick. That would be sick, bro. I know some people some people try to say, flying an airline is, flying a plane is really not that much different than like driving a bus, right? Or something like that, right? Because a lot of it is automated and stuff like that. This is what some people would say. I would still disagree. Flying a plane is still a remarkable skill. It takes a lot of know-how, a lot of trust somebody has to have in you to trust them to take them in a large metal box in the air that flies for a few hours. So beautiful to see. I didn't even know that happened. And this is why I love doing these live streams. I love doing these streams because even I learn something new. Even I, as if I'm a genius, right? I'm just a normal guy like you. But yeah, even I learn something new every time I turn on these things. Wow, absolutely amazing. Honestly, if you asked me this question before today, I would have thought that never happened. I would have thought even in 2024 there would have never been an all black cockpit crew on a commercial airliner. I would have thought that would have never happened. I'm sure those white folks were terrified. They were terrified. They were saying stuff like, I'm going to vote for Jesse Jackson, stuff like that, right? I'm going to continue. All right. Before Mr. Harris was hired, airline executives had discriminated for years against black pilots out of fear that white passengers wouldn't want to board the planes they flew and that it would be too difficult to find them hotel accommodations. He knew that he was extremely qualified, so on paper, he would seem like an ideal candidate to many commercial airlines. Michael H. Cotman wrote in his book, Segregated Skies, David Harris's trailblazing journey to rise above racial barriers, 2021. But once he was brought in for an interview and a prospective employer saw the color of his skin, he was concerned that he would face disappointment again and again. Mr. Harris, who had a light complexion and green eyes, also feared that airline employees might mistakenly think he was white. He decided to leave no doubt about who he was, ending his application letter by writing, I'm married, I have two children, and I'm a Negro. Beautiful, beautiful, because he had the option to pass as white, right? Or at least try to get his foot in the door. But he put it all out there. He put it all out there. And listen, there are some people who will say, the Thurgood Marshalls and the David E. Harrises, these white people, let in white passing black folks because they are, easier to control. They are more tame and stuff like that. These are the descendants of the house Negroes, as some people think, and stuff like that. I disagree. Look, I look at all my light skinned brothers and sisters, all my black people of different complexion, whether you're damn near white or black as night, right? We're all in this together, right? We are all one black people, right? And the white supremacists know when they're not talking to a white person, right? So let's get this out of the way. A lot of black people did pass out because of some white people's ignorance, but they've caught on since then. They've caught on since then, right? Like since then, white people know who's black and who's white, right? Even if you're, Steph Curry. I'm continuing here, y'all. I'm flying over your heads, man. Flying over your heads like David E. Harris. Oh, that's a bar. That's a bar. I'm flying over your heads like David E. Harris. Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. Several airlines didn't even bother replying. Another black pilot, Marlon D. Green, was among the first to fight back in court. He filed a complaint against Continental Airlines for racial discrimination after he was denied a job in 1957. The case wound up in the U.S. Supreme Court, which ruled in Mr. Green's favor in 1963. Continental hired him in 1964, and he began flying for the airline in 1965. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. And just, I gotta say this. There were a lot of black people back then who would say to a man like Marlon D. Green, why are you trying to be with the white folks? Why are you trying to fight so hard to get a job? Why don't you just fly for it? A black airline. This is the dumbass, the stupid comments that people say. Listen, 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 listen. The idea that we should be limited in our scope is one thing, right? Like black people should be able to work, live, and travel anywhere we want, right? But because we live in a white supremacist world, sometimes there are no other options than to be with a white-owned company or in a white space, if that makes sense. Literally, to say to this black man, Marlon D. Green, give up on your dreams, stop trying to be up with the white folks and stuff like that. Listen, there were no black airlines. I hate those sorts of comments because people say that sort of stuff to me all the time. Simon, how dare you travel to France? How dare you travel to Turkey? How dare you travel to any place, right? I just see these sorts of things, and I'm just putting it all out there to let it be known how stupid it is, right? Shout out to Marlon D. Green for breaking down barriers, and shout out for David E. Harris for breaking down barriers. So Marlon Green is part of an aviation and civil rights history. Mr. Harris was quoted as saying in Mr. Cotman's book, "He paved the way for me and for many black pilots who followed." In 1964, Mr. Harris received a telegram from American Airlines arranging from an interview in Dallas with the company's chief pilot. Even after Mr. Green's legal victory, Mr. Harris still had doubts about whether his qualifications were enough for him to get hired. I don't want to I don't want there to be any misunderstandings with you or your company, Mr. Harris told the chief pilot. According to Mr. Cotman's book, I am a Negro. I'm a little concerned because I've put this in a lot of applications at other airlines and I was turned down. Young pilot, the chief pilot replied, "This is American Airlines. We don't care if you're black, white, or chartreuse. We only want to know this: can you fly the plane the right way?" Mr. Harris answered affirmatively. David Ellsworth Harris was born on December 22nd, 1934, in Columbus, Ohio. His father, Wilbur Harris Sr., was a plumber, electrician, and carpenter who installed service station equipment. His mother, Ruth Arlene Estes Harris, managed the household. Mr. Harris attended the Ohio State University, where he studied education and was a member of the Air Force ROTC. After graduating in 1957 with a bachelor's degree and an Air Force commission, he began flight training at Bartow Air Base in Florida, where he flew B-52 and B-47 bombers. He left the Air Force in 1964 as a captain. Mr. Harris married Linda Dandridge in 1958. They divorced in 1984 but remained lifelong friends. His second wife, Virginia Lynn Harris, died in 2000. In addition to his daughter Leslie, he is survived by another daughter, Camion Harris Foley, 6 grandchildren, and 2 great grandchildren. In 1971, Whitney M. Young Jr., the executive director of the National Urban League and a towering leader in the civil rights movement, drowned while swimming in Lagos, Nigeria. Okay. Um, yo, said in the comments, your commentary is so balanced and correct. Please continue. Thank you. Say so. All right, I'll continue. I'll try. And tune in always for the live streams and send stories that you want me to cover. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate people that like what I do because I love what I do, and I hope you enjoy it too. So, continuing on. So, Whitney M. Young Jr., the executive director of the National Urban League and a towering leader of the civil rights movement, drowned while swimming in Lagos, Nigeria. Mr. Young's wife chartered an American Airlines plane to transport her husband's body from his funeral in New York to his burial in Kentucky. Several civil rights leaders, including Reverend Jesse Jackson, would be on board. She requested that Mr. Harris serve as pilot. As Mr. Harris left the house that morning, his wife joked, "For goodness sake, don't screw this up. You'll wipe out the entire civil rights movement." That's funny. That's funny. So Mr. Harris flew the plane that carried like all these famous black people. And his wife was like, don't kill the dream. Don't kill the dream, David. Anyway, so Craig Mack said, "Chili Simon, what up? Showing support. I'll catch you next live on the streets of Serbia at the moment. Consider my request topic. They are hot off the press. It will get you into the algorithm." Thank you, Craig Mack, for the support as well. Shout out to all of you for supporting. All right. So, finishing off this article right here, Mr. Harris considered that flight among the most important of his career. "I was flattered that she requested I fly the charter," he said. "It was an honor." So, that is the end of this story of David E. Harris. He lived an amazing life, a life to admire. I don't know about his personal business, whether he was bad to his wife or good to his mistresses. Who knows? The point is, a black man was able to achieve something amazing at a time when our, very existence in a job like this was considered unfathomable. And he broke down barriers for us. David E. Harris literally walked the path so that we could fly, right? So I appreciate this brother. It almost brings tears to my eyes to know that there was so much that I didn't know about this man and so much that I didn't know about the history of black aviation. And that's why I want to tell Charlie Kirk to roll over and croak please immediately. Unfortunately, Charlie Kirk might be with us on this planet for a long time, but we have millions of other Black brothers and sisters who can walk in the footsteps of David E. Harris. So I hope they continue to strive for excellence, and we don't let racists like Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens say that we don't deserve to be pilots because of DEI, as if they let Black people have anything without being overly qualified for the position. And that's pretty much it for this live stream. I appreciate everybody who tuned in. Shout out to Craig Mack. Shout out to Say So. Shout out to my beautiful wife, Act Dennis. Y'all tune in for the next live stream. I don't know when I'll do it, possibly tomorrow. I just want to do 3 stories for an hour every day to chat with the people and, get it out there. So let me know what y'all think, and peace.